Okay, we're still in Chapter 7 of the First Global Revolution. This is video number 7 of that chapter. However, confrontation, whether softly expressed or violent, is growing between the poor and the rich in developing countries. The Western model is denounced, yet at the same time envied and hated because of the impossibility of attaining it. The hatred of the poor for the rich is aimed mainly at the West, and especially at its most blatant form in the image of the wealth and waste of American society as viewed on television. But it is also focused on the ostentation, arrogance, and lifestyles of local elites. City governments have so far been unable to control the flow and to provide adequate integration structures, health, and education services for a new underclass that is vulnerable to all kinds of diseases and can sink into all sorts of marginal behavior, such as prostitution and drug dealing. The need for population policies. We turn again to the central issue of the population explosion, which must have its place in the Resolutique. As already stated, in many countries there is a grim race between population growth and development. So much economic improvement achieved at the expense of so much human effort is consumed by increasing numbers. In hindsight, one can only muse about how prosperous countries such as India, so well endowed by nature, would be today had they been able to maintain their early 20th century populations. There is undoubtedly an urgent need for these countries to adopt sensible and human policies of population regulation, encouraging family planning measures to complement the death control achievements ushered in by improved medicine and hygiene. One of the surest means of attaining lower fertility rates is through the spontaneous processes that follow economic improvement. But in many places this is a far-off hope, made even more distant by the high rate of population growth, thus casting the whole issue into a vicious cycle. A scientific breakthrough in contraceptive technology is also long overdue, especially cheap and widely available oral or other contraceptives, which would greatly facilitate population control. Also, the direct correlation between fertility and female illiteracy needs urgent attention. Population control, necessary as it is, must be planned in terms of human well-being. It is of paramount importance that all countries striving for development should design their population policies. These policies have to be based on detailed exploration of the demographic growth prospects in relation to resource availability and development aims, including the standard of living which each country hopes to achieve. Only through informed assessment of such prospects can development planning be realistic. If the public is to respond to population control needs, it must be given sufficient information to understand the dangers of overpopulation for the individual and the benefits that would flow from population growth restraint. Such conditions are necessary if population planning is to be implemented with humanity. The need for new strategies of development. It is clearly necessary to rethink development policies and practices. Much greater priority has to be given to the needs of the marginalized and forgotten millions of the rural poor in all parts of the underdeveloped world. It is necessary also to go back to first base and question the underlying assumption of the most development policies, namely that the economic success of the presently industrialized countries achieved through the systematic pursuit of a technology-based economic growth is the inevitable path to be followed by all countries and all cultures. The newer generations in many countries, while by no means rejecting the need for modernization and material improvement, insistent on the need to draw on their own traditions and skills in creating their own patterns of development. Imitation is not enough. It is more important for such countries to construct their own capacities for scientific research and technological transfer. In a period of rapid scientific and technological change in the industrialized countries, the importation of traditional methods of manufacture can lead industrialization to obsolescence. It is remarkable that in many countries that boast of modern industry and services, malnutrition and illiteracy are widely prevalent, with a large percentage of the population in a condition of extreme poverty. Some of these cases have been near catastrophic, with inequality and poverty actually worsened. It is clear that global development cannot continue along these lines, and that a serious reconsideration of development strategies is absolutely necessary. A reversal of these trends also implies radical change in the political systems, stability, elimination of corruption, a setting of priorities based on the needs of future generations, and strong limitations to the abusive spread of bureaucracies. In the semi-industrialized countries, especially in those that became heavily indebted during the 1970s and 1980s, the adjustments that they have had to make to maintain service of their external debt and to reduce inflation and waste have forced them to cancel large projects, to redesign their strategies, and particularly to reduce the scope of the public sector and provide strong incentives instead to domestic private entrepreneurs. An important role can be played by direct foreign investment in this process. Many of these countries have had no alternative but to create conditions under which their industries must become internationally competitive, following to some extent the experience of the Pacific Rim countries. This process has gone on sometimes at the expense of the domestic market and with great sacrifice in terms of unemployment and regular salaried incomes. And I'll stop right there. We'll pick up next video.